They were once Hollywood's golden couple, beloved on screen, idolized off it. Every red carpet appearance, every interview, every shared social media post painted the image of perfection. But behind the curated smiles and glamorous photo shoots, a storm was brewing. The world had no idea how fast that perfect illusion would come crashing down. What began as whispers in tabloids soon exploded into a full-blown media frenzy. Accusations flew like wildfire: betrayal, manipulation, emotional abuse. And now, with cameras flashing outside the courthouse, the couple once idolized by millions stood on opposite sides of a bitter legal war. Before we dive into this courtroom drama, don't forget to subscribe to the Verdict Diaries for daily real-life legal battles, emotional true stories, and gripping cases that keep you thinking long after they end. We promise you won't want to miss a single episode. The case began with a simple divorce petition. No assets disputed, no custody battles, just irreconcilable differences. But everything changed the moment a confidential document was leaked to the press. A private recording of a heated argument between the couple sent shockwaves across social media. The public opinion was swift and brutal. Fans were divided. Sponsors pulled out. And suddenly, the divorce wasn't just a personal matter. It became a public war. As the trial began, intimate details of their life were exposed: text messages, financial records, therapy notes. What shocked the world wasn't just the content, it was how calculated both sides appeared. It was no longer about love lost. It was about image, power, and control. The husband's legal team painted him as the victim, someone emotionally drained, publicly humiliated, and manipulated behind the scenes. Meanwhile, the wife's attorneys portrayed her as a woman betrayed, gaslighted, and cast aside after years of loyalty. Neither side backed down. Each testimony brought more chaos. Former assistants, bodyguards, and even a close family member were called in as witnesses. Some supported the claims, others denied them, but each one added another layer to the unraveling web. What started as a celebrity split had turned into a legal spectacle. The judge repeatedly warned both teams to keep proceedings civil. But with the eyes of the world watching, civility was no longer the priority. Winning was. Stay tuned. What happens next will not only test the limits of privacy and justice, but also force us to ask how much of the truth really matters when fame is on trial. The courtroom atmosphere grew even more tense as the second week of trial unfolded. Journalists waited outside every morning, live streaming their updates. Inside, the drama deepened, not just in legal strategy, but in emotional fallout. The wife's attorney took the offensive, introducing a diary she had kept for years. In it, she described her growing isolation, the emotional manipulation, and her attempts to save the marriage. The entries were powerful. They gave voice to pain the public had never seen. The jury leaned in as each page was read aloud. Then came the surprise, the entry about an ultimatum. She had discovered something devastating, a secret contract her husband had drawn up with his PR team months before their breakup. It detailed how to spin the divorce, preserve his brand, and shift blame subtly toward her. The courtroom gasped. Her voice trembled as she recounted how she confronted him, only to be met with silence. "He didn't deny it," she said. "He just said, 'It's business.'" The judge called for a break, and the couple sat at opposite ends of the room. He stared blankly ahead. She wiped tears from her eyes. This was no longer just a divorce. It had become a battle of identity, of dignity. Back on the stand, the husband's team fired back. They claimed the diary entries were exaggerated, meant to paint a picture and gain sympathy. They presented evidence that the wife had met secretly with a major streaming platform, allegedly selling the story of their divorce for millions. Suddenly, the roles reversed. The courtroom now questioned her intentions. Was this heartbreak or a headline opportunity? The husband took the stand for the first time, appearing calm but visibly exhausted. He denied being manipulative, said the contract was never meant to hurt her, only to protect his career. When your name is a brand, he said, you do what you have to do. But then came the question that shifted everything. A juror asked, is your brand worth more than the truth? Silence. He looked down, hesitated, and said, I honestly don't know anymore. The room held its breath. That one moment, the hesitation, was replayed across television screens, podcasts, and social media. The clip went viral. Millions debated it. It became the central question of the case. When you're famous, where does the brand end and the person begin? As court adjourned that day, everyone knew this wasn't about a marriage anymore. It was about trust, about the price of fame, and about how far someone is willing to go to protect what they built, even if it means losing what mattered most. The third week of the trial began with a shift in tone. No longer was the courtroom just a legal arena. It had become a public theater. The couple's fame brought scrutiny to every word, every glance. Analysts dissected their body language on television. Social media debated which side told the real story, and the truth, buried beneath years of spotlight and secrecy, was struggling to surface. The wife's legal team introduced another shocking revelation, a private recording. It had been captured during a heated argument just months before their public separation. In it, the celebrity husband could be heard admitting to orchestrating certain narratives about their relationship through media contacts. His voice on the tape was calm, almost rehearsed. I'm not lying, he said. I'm just controlling the damage. You do it too. Don't act like you don't. The courtroom sat frozen. The wife looked down, her face pale. This was her moment. She didn't cry. She didn't react. She simply let the evidence speak. The defense objected to the recording, calling it an invasion of privacy. But the judge allowed it, citing public interest due to the high-profile nature of the case. From that moment on, the trial was no longer just about who was right or wrong. It became a referendum on truth in the age of celebrity. More witnesses were called, former assistants, managers, a close friend of the couple who had been caught in the crossfire. They painted a picture of a marriage that had long ceased to be a union and instead become a carefully curated performance. Every vacation photo, one witness said, was staged for People or Instagram. Every anniversary post had a PR angle. It stopped being about love a long time ago. The courtroom's mood grew heavier. This wasn't just the unraveling of a relationship. It was the dismantling of a myth. In a quiet moment between testimonies, the wife was asked on the stand if she still loved him. She took a deep breath. I loved the man he was before the fame, she said. Before the press tours and the contracts. Before the cameras turned on, that version of him disappeared a long time ago. It was honest, raw, human, and it hit the public hard The clip spread rapidly online, with millions sharing it alongside their own stories of losing people to ambition, ego, or fame. By the end of the third week, it was clear this case was no longer just theirs. It belonged to everyone watching, everyone who had ever felt invisible in a relationship, unheard in a crowd, or betrayed by someone who once promised forever. And as the final days of testimony loomed, one thing was certain. Whatever the outcome, their story had already rewritten how the world viewed love in the limelight. The final week of the trial arrived with an air of tension thick enough to touch. Reporters lined the courthouse steps. The gallery was filled with familiar faces, some famous, others just curious. But no one spoke much. Everyone sensed the end was near, and it wouldn't come quietly. Closing arguments began with the wife's attorney painting a picture of emotional neglect, media manipulation, and the hidden cost of fame. He didn't beg for sympathy. He demanded accountability. He spoke of the difference between public image and private truth, and how living in the spotlight didn't give anyone permission to hurt someone in the dark. Then came the husband's turn. His team shifted strategy, presenting him not as a villain, but as a man who lost himself trying to keep up with expectations. He built a brand, the lawyer said, but forgot to protect the woman who helped him build it. It was compelling, but was it enough? The jury was sent to deliberate. Outside, the city buzzed with speculation. Online, hashtags trended. Everyone had an opinion. But inside that jury room, only 12 people mattered. After 11 hours, the verdict was ready. The courtroom fell silent. The judge read the decision. The wife would receive a substantial share of the marital assets. Full custody of their daughter was granted to her, with supervised visitation for the husband until a formal review. A non-disclosure clause request from the husband's team was denied. The court ruled that the wife had the right to speak her truth. Gasps rippled through the courtroom. Some were shocked, others relieved, and a few simply sat in stunned silence. The wife didn't cry. She looked at her daughter, then nodded slightly. Her fight wasn't for revenge, it was for clarity, for her child, and for the woman she used to be before the fame rewrote her identity. As they exited the courthouse, the press surged forward, cameras flashing, but she kept walking, graceful, resolved. Her story wasn't just ending, it was beginning again. Later, she released a statement. "I don't want applause or sympathy. I want understanding." This wasn't just about our marriage. It was about what happens when we let image become more important than intimacy. If my story helps one person feel seen, it was worth it. The public response was massive. People connected with the rawness, the honesty, the fall from grace that felt so achingly human. And through it all, one thing became clear. Fame can create illusions, but truth has a voice. And when it's finally heard, it can set the world on fire. Thank you for following this story. If it moved you, inspired you, or opened your eyes, don't forget to subscribe to The Verdict Diaries. We share a new real-life drama every single day, stories of love, betrayal, and the pursuit of justice. Until next time, stay thoughtful, stay curious, and above all, stay true.